The best thing I ever done was put an A-class on this roof.
What, they sacked you?
Yeah. We build insanely powerful and unique cars. Pushing engines into areas they shouldn't go into.
So, what did life look like growing up?
We'll gloss over the childhood bit because it's not very nice. All I had was what I saw in a mirror. Okay, that girl dug me out of sewers. Every kingdom needs a queen, and she runs everything.
COVID.
How we got through that, if you had said at the start of that, what companies are going down, I sat there on a chair and Jordan was looking at me going, what's the matter with you? And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to pay the bills.
Really?
Yeah. Me smashing that A-class out. Still now, best thing I ever did.
Ricky, we've got you on the podcast finally today. I'm really excited to talk to you. For anyone that doesn't know who Ricky is.
Nobody knows who I am, Ben.
Oh, come on. You've grown over 20,000 subscribers on YouTube now. And I've known you over 7
just working
years.
it out, weren't we?
Yeah. Probably 7 years where you had a small unit where you first started really out in tuning cars and modifying cars and servicing and all sorts of performance-based craziness that I don't really understand any of.
Neither do I.
But it was over in the centre of Swindon, and we're now sat in the van outside the door of your Dino, which is actually just behind us, which is amazing to think. And I can't believe it's actually been that long already, but I know that your journey didn't start in this world necessarily in that little unit. It started way before that and love of cars. So what did life look like growing up?
Mate, I hate cars. I hate cars. It's always a way. It's your bad days and your good days. But it started, mate, if we go down this barrel, this rabbit hole, it'll be a mess. So we'll gloss over the childhood bit because it's not very nice. Let's start when kind of got through school, didn't really enjoy it, but I was good at science and maths. So like maths GCSE by like year 9, stuff like that. So bowled out of school, that was done. Cars started when I actually worked at a chip shop. So like year 10, year 11, I worked at a chip shop, and every Friday a lad from Porsche would come in with his Dick Lovett Porsche with his top on. And we got like, I'd always end up serving him. We got chatting and he'd bring me in brochures of like the new, back then it would have been like what? 996? No, God, earlier than that, 98, 99? Would it have even been 996? Would it have been before? Mate, early Porsches would bring me in brochures of them because I was kind of like into cars. And I said, can you get me do you think I can get a job? Thinking someone to wash cars on weekends, like go in and instead of going home stinking of chips, I could go home stinking of soap suds.
Okay. You thought, well, that's better.
Yeah, that's it. Because I would never say I loved cars. I wouldn't have said at that age I was obsessed by them. It was motorbikes. It was bikes. I knew bikes.
And that's still your main passion now, right?
Yeah. If I could make money on bikes, mate, I'd be gone. Yeah. But there's not really money in bikes. Not like I'd have to go and run a franchise dealership and I break too many rules for that. So that didn't work. But bikes came from my stepdad because he always had bikes. So that's where that came from. And he handed me this application form one day for Love It, and I applied, and they offered me apprenticeship. So they offered me BMW or Mercedes, and I don't know why I ended up Mercedes. So I'd done 2 years at Merck's, and it was all right. The best thing I ever done was put an A-class on this roof. I was just out of college. I just qualified really. I just qualified, but we were going back for Loughborough for college. And I got a motocross bike and I was racing home to ride my motocross bike, and I put an A-class on its roof at Greenbridge Roundabout. I come down the inside thinking I was, Michael Schumacher down the inside lane. I've wanted to go left and I've turned across the front of this Mini, and she's just I've hooked it across the front of her, flipped it on its side and up its roof. Next day, I have to trundle my toolbox out of the workshop. Well, that's it, I'm gone. And I broke my heart. Like I was like, oh my God, my life is over. Right.
So they sacked you?
Yeah. Out the door, mate, gone. And I was like, right, okay. And I went to work for Swindon Automobiles on Seat. And that was not my first, I wouldn't say I was a Billy bullshitter, but being qualified doesn't mean you can do it. Does that make sense? So like I'd gone through college.
Yeah, no,
and I'd learned.
It's like that with stuff I do, to be fair. It's until you've actually done it, you don't learn it.
Yeah. So I knew how to do it. I just didn't know how to do it. So I got a job at Seat, and it was Seat and Saab. And he was like, yeah, no worries, come along. It was all right money. I went in as a qualified, and he's like, take that engine out of that Saab. And I remember stood there going, what do I do now? Like, proper, what do I do now? Bearing in mind, I was maybe just 18.
Okay.
All right. So I was a pup. And you just suck it up and get on with it. So did a couple of years there. I was the youngest master tech in the country. Like I wasn't even 21. I was master tech. So I ended up jumping from Seat to Volkswagen to headquarters. So I went to Milton Keynes and I worked for headquarters for 10 years. But yeah, I was the youngest master tech in the country.
For 10 years. So like 10 years gone like that, doing all those.
Oh, mate. Yeah. So like if you go, because like working in dealers is rubbish, but I'd done a couple of years at Swindon. I'd done a couple of years at Manningham. So that was across when me and Kate got married. So I left just after we got married. So I think I'd done 4, 5 and 6. And I left in like October 2006. We got married in the August. And then I went to headquarters in 06. And then I went up there as a Seat technical specialist because, like, I just.
Do you know what? If I'd have had to guess, I'd have said Audi was where your thing started.
No, it wasn't.
No, not at all.
No, it wasn't. But what they figured out, because by then I was racing as well, so I'd started a race, and engines
on bikes.
On bikes. So engines was what I knew, and they kind of took all the technical specialists together, put them all in a big pool, and then give you specialties. So I wasn't branded anymore. Seat, Skoda, Volkswagen, Audi. They give you specialists. So I became powertrain, which was engines. So I ended up going on engines. And then it was things like, I was young and they're like, oh, we need someone to go on a course in Germany. And all the other lads would be like, we're not doing that. So I'd go, turns out V10 course. So I ended up in Germany, going around the factory, learning about Nexalem, learning about V10s. And then I come back and so what would that have been? 2008 maybe. So I'm like 24, 25 now. And I've got factory guys emailing me at headquarters about V10 engines. And like it put a load of noses out of joints of guys I work for. Okay. Because they're like 10, 15 years older than me. And now all of a sudden I'm like the guy everyone's talking to. And I didn't aim for this. I'm just literally crashing my way through it. So it was engines. And then I got involved with things like built a Bonneville car. So my motorsport background kind of led me into that a little bit. So I built a 2-litre car that Richard Meadham rode for Evo magazine. And we went to Bonneville, took a land speed record. So we've done 230 mile an hour in a Skoda.
And was that a V10?
No, 2 litre. Yeah. Yeah, so we took a 2-litre VRS 2010. Yeah, all on YouTube, mate. All like 8 episodes. Yeah, built the car in the UK over in headquarters. Yeah, 2-litre turbo. Took it to Bonneville, raced it at Bonneville. Richard Meadham drove it. Yeah, we've done 230 mile an hour. So that would have been.
That's fun.
That was 2011. Been in LMP paddock, been in GT3 paddock. Just done everything.
So how old are you now?
39.
Blimmin', I had absolutely no idea.
Yeah, man.
I had no idea.
Baby face, didn't I?
Yeah. I had no idea, mate.
Yeah, I'm older than people think, because people look at me and think, oh, bloody hell.
Because yes, when you said like, that was 10 years.
Yeah, quick, man. Yeah, quick. So the guy who was building my race engines for my bikes, Tim at Race Developments in Gloucester, I left headquarters to go and work for him. And I took a massive, massive pay cut to go and do it. But engines, I would have said then, it wasn't cars, it was engines. Engines, like I loved engines. And I went and worked there. And I think I did maybe 2 years there or so, something like that. So yeah, I just built engines. That was it. And we built everything from...
Is that performance engines, making stuff
race engines. Yeah. So we built everything from... We built engines for Jake Dixon, Carl Ride in British Supersport. We were building engines for Tommy Bridewell and Michael Rutter in Superbikes. We were building engines for British Time Attack. We were building engines for drag racing. All sorts. Just proper engines.
So you learned how to get the maximum out of an engine.
Yeah, I learned the tuning way of doing it. Not the factory way of doing it. So there's different ways.
And when you went on that course, you had the factory way.
The factory way. We do it like this. We do it like that. We do it like this, and then you kind of learn how you can, make a 10 mil peg fit in a 9 mil hole. Yeah. Little things like that. How you sort of then start twisting things, bending the rules, pushing engines into great areas they shouldn't go into.
So at that point, did the R8 even come out?
Yeah, because I'd done.
Oh yeah, you said
7 years in it. Yeah.
So 2007.
2007. Yeah. So I've done a long time on R8. So I've been working on R8s now, like 16 years. Yeah. So it's over we've looked after over 2,000 R8s just since I've started RE Performance.
And how long have you now been doing RE Performance?
January 1st, 2016.
So when did you make the decision to do that and why?
I left Tim Race Developments and I went back to Volkswagen to work as a business development manager because we were broke. What I thought was broke. We didn't have any disposable income. Bills were paid, didn't have a disposable income. And I went back to be a business development manager for SEAT because I still had guys in the group who knew what I could do. And I hated it. Top to bottom, hated it. Like when people say they hate their job, I know what they mean. It was horrible. It's a good job. And if you were that way inclined, it was...
You just wanted to be hands-on.
Oh, mate, it was boring. Because the idea of the job is you'd go in and help a dealer who weren't making money make more money. But when no one's listening, I bang my head against a brick wall, driving up and down the country. And I said to Kate, well, I think at one point we had like 4 R8s on the drive. So we're really close to our next door neighbours. And when they bought their house, so Nat and Andy, when they bought their house, it was R8 on the drive. So they turned up to buy the house. It wasn't ours. Mate, I had like 4 or 5 R8s outside the house at any one time. I had engines in my garage.
So is that just working for private clients?
Yeah,
just off your drive?
Yeah. So I was doing PJs by then. Yeah.
But you say you were pretty broke and you'd taken on this other job to try and then...
Yeah, so I'd gone back corporate and I literally hated it. So the private work had kind of never really gone away because as a mechanic, it never really...
And is that just through meeting people during that process?
Yeah.
Word of mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, Ricky will do that.
Obviously, we've kind of scanned a 15-year career pretty quick, but you go on events, you meet people, you go and support. So a big part of my job was going out to clients to help them with problems and being that intermediary between the factory and them.
So if you hadn't have had that 15 years,
I wouldn't be where I am now.
You wouldn't have the client base.
God, no, yeah.
So that's almost part of opening your business was the bit where you just had to go and suck up 15 years of meeting people.
The road, right? That's the road part.
Yeah.
What people, people will go into the failures of it all. But yeah, that's it. Me smashing that A-class up. Still now, best thing I ever did. Ever did. Because friends of mine, 20 years later, are still working in that same garage. That when I was there, I looked up to. They were gods. They were lads I worked with, 5-6 years older than me, drove nice cars, had wives, girlfriends, whatever. They were out. They just had that life where you're like, oh, I want that life. And now I look and they're still there doing the same jobs and no one's moved on. So me flipping out A-class, mate, whoosh.
But where did I can do being an entrepreneur. I can start my own business. Where the heck did that come from? Or is it not about that in a way? Was it,
no.
Well, I'm doing things for people anyway. I've just got to do it on a slightly bigger scale now.
I hate the word entrepreneur.
Okay.
I hate it. So for me, do you watch, what's that Alan Sugar, The Apprentice?
Yeah.
Load of everyone on there is a knob.
Yeah, 100%. I do agree with that. Yeah.
Being a good salesman does not make you a businessman. Do you know what I mean? They're the ones that would drive around their finance supercars with a watch on and take a photo and put it on Instagram. I hate those people because that is not what, you've got a nice car. I've just sold my car. What's the first thing that goes when you hit trouble? The nice stuff, right?
Yeah, when I was going through the previous business sale and needed some cash, they were like, they're gone. They're gone straight away.
They're gone. And that's what people don't get. People will judge you on your shiny days and no one ever sees the work you do.
I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean?
When you're quiet, when you've got your head down and you're grafting.
Success comes from the work no one sees you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last night, here till midnight, mate. Kate's texted me at 10 o'clock, you coming home? She's fallen asleep. I'm like, babe, go to sleep. I'll get home when I get home. It's one of them nights. And I was here till midnight. And it's fine. It's fine. Earphones in, mate. Lock the door. Smash on. And that's it.
But that came from a much smaller workshop.
Oh, tiny. Do you remember?
It was.
Mate, I remember
how many cars could get in there? 2 cars, and there was a little half mezzanine above.
Yeah, so a mezz was full of bits, and then I could get a car in behind, which ended up being like where I built the engines. And then like my first memory of you is doing your A45, and you turned up in that stinking fishing caddy. Mate,
do you know what? I must say, because you're do you know what? I've never had so much problems with a vehicle before than that caddy. It went wrong so much.
Mate.
Like it just. I think.
I'm not surprised it stank.
I think the caddy cost $7,000 second hand, and it had 12 spent on it over the course of its life. And then I got fed up in the end, and I sold it, and it currently lives on RAF Bryce Norton. Someone's sleeping in the back of it, using it as a bedroom.
Oh, mate. Oh.
But I wouldn't want to sleep in that.
Fishing gear, honestly. Yeah, so it was, my phone's going mad now. So, so yeah, it was small. I went in there, and to give you an idea, that was £750 a month plus VAT for rent.
Yeah.
Rates.
What
2016.
So now that'd be 1,200 quid a month, the equivalent.
But bearing in mind, back then, I had no overheads. So I was going from no overheads on my driveway to, this is...
It's part of running a business.
Yeah, I know.
This is part of running a business.
Let me get this a sec. 2 secs. Hello.
We're back. We just had to shoot off because a customer needed to move his R8.
Yeah, you brought me in. I can't believe you brought the customer.
Out of the 30 R8s that are here, it was that one.
The world's longest van.
It was that one R8 that needed moving.
Always away, mate.
But I just said, okay, when I was reversing this out, just then for you to get that R8 out, do you remember when I don't know, 3 years ago, maybe, it could have been longer than that, maybe 4 years, when you were working on one of my cars, maybe the C63, and Dom.
Your guy
Dom from Paisley, who I know listens to this and watches this podcast, because he messaged me the other day. Bless him, he reversed one of the lads that worked for our previous business, Pave Study. He dropped me off here. It was absolute diamond as well last time. And it was one of them days. It could have been a Friday afternoon or whatever.
Do you know what? It was one of them days anyway.
He reversed into a customer's R8.
Into a twin turbo V8 in midnight purple, wrapped in midnight purple, right? So it was fine. It didn't dent the panel, but it peeled the wrap off the back quarter, and 3M no longer made that shade, right? And then then they were like, right, okay, well, we need to wrap the whole car. And then when they took the wrap off, it peeled the lacquer. So it ended up being paint and a wrap. For honest to God, it was a scuff when he hit it. But
it was barely touched. You couldn't replace that panel, if I'm right in saying, because it would have just looked wrong against the rest of the car with the sun.
So where it was they didn't do this midnight purple anymore, and obviously UV affects wraps, so obviously it bleaches it out. So even if we could get that shade, it probably wouldn't have looked right. Yeah, so but it was one of them cars.
It looked like my 458 after it, dear.
Mate. Honestly. Just like I just understood that.
I just thought of it because it's quite tight. I was just reversing this.
I think he was going to cry.
And I was like, I started thinking about it, and I think he did, bless him, if I'm honest. But
that's it. That's what no one sees. That's what no one sees.
And that was a headache.
Stuff like that. So if I could describe it to anyone, it's 10 plates spinning all the time. And you cannot let one drop. So now I'm not even a big company, but I've got my own family to look after. I've got 2 guys that work with me. I'm trying to take on a 3rd. Got to do 20 a month profit to keep the doors open. So that's a lot of pressure, and that's a lot of plate spinning, and things like that happen every day. One thing, part doesn't arrive, car's dead on a ramp. This doesn't arrive, dead on a ramp. This is wrong, that's wrong. We find a problem.
Just been through COVID.
How we got through that, if you had said at the start of that, what companies are going down? Well, a supercar tuning centre is must be number 1. How we got through that, I'll have no idea. We were rammed, mate. We were rammed. I was busier then than I am now.
Yeah, that's what happened to our paving slabs. We thought it was all going to go to pot, and then everybody, I don't know how we didn't see it, but then everybody wanted to do their gardens.
Yeah.
So it was the busiest it ever was in paving direct. But I suppose everybody just thought, well, I can't go out and use my cars.
I can't buy my car. I can't buy a new car. So
I can't really use it at the minute. I'll send it to go and get something done.
Yeah. We see finance go up. So obviously finance rates have gone through the roof. Yeah. People spend more money on their cars because they go, I'll keep my car. I'll do 2 years and I'll change it. Whereas actually what happens is they either are desperate to get out. So they sell and they sell cheap. I was looking at before I bought my R8, 600 LT at 125 grand, including VAT. That was a VAT car. So it was like £106,000 plus VAT for 600 LT. It's mental. So people literally, when the bad things happen, they either fire sale their cars. So you always figure out who's on finance. Mine was on finance. It's not, do you know what I mean? Fire sale their cars. They're like, I don't need that overhead in uncertain times. Or those who own their cars go, well, I'm not changing, so I'll spend a load of money on my car. And it was like that. It being COVID, someone rang me up, hey mate, can I order a twin turbo kit for my R8?
Because they've been sat watching YouTube videos.
And this is the crazy part. Yeah, no worries. It's an £60,000, £70,000 bill. Right. When was the last time you were in your car and you coughed in it? Because when it turns up here, we've got disinfectant. It was that crazy. It was that. And I know everybody had a hard time with it, but that was surreal. And it feels like 10 years ago. It was like, what, two years ago? But like the boys were off for 6 months, furloughed. So it was me on my own and like not even breaking the rules, but Jordan, we got to keep working. Yeah,
no, we had to. We had guys in the yard, but you couldn't not survive as a business. A business has got to do what it's got to do to survive. But I just can't believe now with that whole situation. I'm sure many people, it's like it's just gone.
Yeah, disappeared.
Where's it gone? Like, and it's crazy how from where it was to what we are now. But as we said before,
your stinky Caddy
A45 was the first time we met, which I genuinely can't believe was around about 7 years ago.
You must have just passed your test.
No, I'd been driving I passed when I was 17.
Right, okay.
So I think it was about 18. I was fortunate enough to have an A45, yes. But my first vehicle was that stinking fishing Caddy, which was the longest vehicle I've ever owned up until literally last year. I don't think that would have made a very good podcast van, if I'm honest.
No, what did you have after that? Because we've done quite a few cars for you now, haven't we?
C63.
Yeah. Done your perf. Wow. We looked after your perf. Your first one.
Well, yeah, you had to because I didn't. Because I didn't. 458 when I hit the deer.
Yeah. We've done quite a few.
And between you and Jordan, when I said, "Oh, Jordan, I've smacked a deer in the 458," and sadly, I can't believe I don't really care that I'm saying this. 'Cause I'm probably gonna keep the car for a while, but I did it. I don't know if you know, I did it again.
Right.
In the Hurricane.
Right. What, another deer?
Yeah, a bigot. But it done the front left bumper and it done the front bumper. So that's the second Hurricane front bumper.
Second Performante front bumper you've done.
And it done the coolant tank behind it. It smashed it. But it's just deer around by where I live. And that was broad daylight.
Nothing to do with the fact you were probably thinking, you're Carlos Sainz at the time.
I was accelerating hard.
30 mile an hour.
No, I was accelerating hard on a straight. And my mates actually got it on camera because it was on Snapchat at the time, and this thing just appeared. And just clipped the left hand side of the car. And to be fair, you know what goes on, how these cars run better than me. But how that car kept in a straight line because it wiggled with the track, it was impressive.
Electronics.
Because I've seen there's a video on YouTube from years ago. And it's a Gallardo ESC test on Bruntingthorpe, and it shows it on and off. And that's what that was almost like in that moment, a proper test of the car.
We were running ADE cars, so Audi driving experience. Just before the Plus came out, because that was the last project I worked on was a Plus. So that would have been 2011, 2012, 2013. So we had a fleet of 10 R8. So I've done so many laps around Silverstone, like in R8s, like mental. But we would get like Alan McNish turn up and drive in our ADE cars. And not even he would switch electronics all the way off. So like that's a factory LMP driver for Audi. And he's like, no, I'll just turn it one stage off. I'll just go to sport and I'll just lean on it a little bit. But this is the big problem. Like, do you remember when we did, was it Performance German Day and we went out and did laps in your Perth?
Oh, yeah. And my dad, bless him, was still around at that point. Yeah. And he was leaning over the barrier.
Shitting himself.
He was absolutely breaking it.
Like, I am about to watch my lad.
I'll put a clip over the top of this on the YouTube.
But, I mean, you're not a racing driver, are you?
Oh, God, no.
Do you know what I mean? You did well. I didn't help encouraging you. But this is the problem. You go on so many track days, and then I've raced bikes as well for a long time. You see so many people lean on electronics that when it starts to go wrong and the electronics go, well, I'm out, mate. This me done. They're so far beyond their capabilities. It's a big crash. It's a big crash.
You lose track of distance on tracks, though, don't you? I find that's the bit I struggle with as a rookie. It's not where to apex or angles necessarily, but for me,
it's your brain.
I arrive at a corner, and even when I'm thinking about it, I'm still going quicker than what I thought I was getting at that corner.
And then you do something silly like transition into the corner and downshift, and then that completely
because you crack yourself. Yeah, and you just don't know what to do.
I raced all last weekend at Brands, and I drove home in a van, and I was driving home. I'm like, oh, this feels so slow, and I looked down and I'm doing like 95. But because I'm doing 170 all weekend, your brain's like in that, I just finished a race.
That's what people are like when they're wondering why I'm in the fast lane in a craft.
Yeah, because I'm like that.
Getting up to Sheffield to interview Nigel.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a perf. So, yeah, it's...
But getting back on the business track, we were at the point where you had your first unit and it was just you.
Yeah.
And you had that client base from building up 15 years worth of people, knowledge,
lots of forums.
Yeah, they were big back then, the R8.
Lots of networking, just try to go to every event. And
so how did that business go? Did you cover the overheads? Was it good? Was there any rocky times?
I was rich is the wrong word. I had more cash. I had more money back then because my overheads were fixed, my overheads were low. So I still did the same amount of work I do now, but my overheads were fixed.
Yeah.
But the business wasn't big. Does that make?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Turnover, vanity, profit, sanity.
Yeah. So it got to a point where it was like I was tripping over cars. I'd have like you've seen the time attack cars. We've done the GT and stuff like that. The guys for podium. I was looking after John's stuff, and I'd have an engine out of one, and I'd be pushing cars in and out, and it was like, I need to move. So I was looking around.
And anyone that's looked for units will know that it's the most, especially in like this area of the country. Yeah. They're rocking horse, isn't they? In the right sizes, because everybody wants a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot unit to operate from.
I haven't got, if anybody's been to my side, I don't have the entire side of my unit. So it's a massive building. And then I've got 2/3 of that warehouse. And then the top third is the body shops or their storage bit. And I moved in 1st of January, 2018. And I had all my stuff in a space 2 times the size of this floor space in this van. And I sat there, bearing in mind it's 5,000 square feet. And I sat there on a chair, and Jordan, pro detail, was looking at me going, what's the matter with you? And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to pay the bills. It was
did you just have a freak out moment?
Yeah, almost like, we're steep now. This is in it or bin it.
Yeah, I felt that before with certain things. I felt that with even like a little flat build. You sometimes just become a bit overwhelmed by it, don't you? And you think, for God's sake,
every step is out of your comfort zone. And if it's not out of your comfort zone, you're coasting. Do you know what I mean? You need a pressure. You need something to excel. Human beings are no good at coasting. Human beings, we need something. So like,
I don't know. I've seen some pretty good coasters, but
so like I have to have something. Not crushing down on me, but I need a pressure, whether it's a deadline on a car or something I'm working towards. Like when the Dino, I remember being on holiday 2019, and I know so I've got a Maha 4-wheel drive Dino, and I messaged the guy because I saw him, it is used. It's Litchfield's old Dino. And I know Ian quite well. And I knew it was coming out. He's putting a new one in. And I messaged Louis and I said, mate, out of interest, how much is that Dino going to be? And he's like, 90 plus VAT, 90 grand. And I'm like, I need that. And we were on holiday with Kate, so that's my wife, and her cousins. And I'm like, should we buy a Dino? And Kate's like, that girl dug me out of sewers. Like when we met, I was living on my own. I was, just 16. and I'm a kite in a hurricane, and that girl's a peg in the ground. So if she ever leaves me there isn't anyone harder than me, but if she ever leaves me, like, it's going to go off, mate. You know what I mean? Yeah. She's always been there. Every kingdom needs a queen, and she runs everything. So I might look like the face of it, yeah, but you can't put the Eiffel Tower up unless there's a solid ground underneath, and that's how it is. And I said to her, I was like, should we buy Dino? And she's like, well, if you think, does it work? Is it this? Is it that? Mate, I come back off holiday and I'd agreed to buy a 90 grand plus VAT, and I had to pay the VAT money up front plus the deposit, because you can't finance VAT. So it's 90 plus VAT. And then I'm like, great, I've got a Dino coming. Where am I going to put it? And I was like,
you hadn't thought of that bit then. No sketches, no.
So you've seen my Dino sale. So like, there's probably another 50 bag in that sale.
So was Jordan at this point, because we spoke about Jordan is he runs Pro Detail UK, and he operates inside part of your unit, and he's got his own detailing studio and bay, and it's really nice. You've both known each other for ages, but you run your own separate things, but you're always around each other. You basically get to work with one of your best mates.
Yeah. Look, well, one of us is tying the rope around the rafters for the other one normally.
Okay.
Like on the bad days, we're like that. Well, I'll help you up. You can hang yourself.
Yeah.
But that's how it has to be. Like Kate knows everything. They both know a lot. Kate knows everything. Jordan knows just as much. And he goes through the same thing. So between the three of us, because Kate's 50-50, so between the three of us, like I don't know anyone that goes through what we go through. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
Like, because there's some day, mate, I could sit here and do episode after episode of the balmy, nutty crap we have to go through. Like, honest to God, mate, it's crazy. Because cars make people crazy. Cars make people crazy. Like, car owners, mate. You've met car owners, mate, who are batshit crazy. And sometimes we have to deal with that. We have got 95% of our clients are amazing, and some of them are really good friends. I've got one at the minute who's like he's a massive business manager. He works for an extremely wealthy guy, and he's like a mentor to me at the minute. So one of the things he keeps saying is, you're running your business based off your bank account. And he goes, you can't do that. You can't run a business based off what the bank says, because you make decisions off what the bank says. So I don't know whether your business is the same. My bank account does that. Yeah. The books don't do that. When you look at the books, they're like, steadily grow it,
It's cash flow.
Yeah.
Cash is king.
Yeah. Right. So you sat there and you're making decisions. You make a decision on a Monday after a weekend when all the money's coming through the week because you've invoiced and you haven't bought anything yet. And you're like, gonna have a good week here, boys. And you get to Tuesday where you've paid all your bills, ordered all your parts of the week. And then you're like, I'm broke, So it's like, you can't run your business off your bank account. You have to run your business off your books. You have to look at the strategy and make decisions based off that. So if we're trying to take someone on now, if I looked at the bank account at the minute, I'd be like, I can't really afford to do that for whatever reason. But that's not, do you know what I mean? You have to have
a brief. How will that person have an effect on what that would look like with them on?
Yeah.
So I understand that. Strategy and planning.
Yeah.
But when did you take your first guy on? Was that in your previous unit?
When I bought the Dino. When I bought the Dino, because I was literally like, right, I'm going to run a Dino. I can't make that investment. So I'll be on it. My Dino was 1,650 quid a month finance payment.
Wow. That's more than your average supercar.
Yeah. So that was how much my Dino cost. So my rent and rates were
and you thought by
$5.
Getting a Dino, it would unlock a whole new chain of customers to come in. Yeah. So did you do it more for having the extra equipment or for almost attracting more customers?
50-50. I was at that point where we were doing a lot of engines and we were building a lot of high-powered cars, and I was having to travel to other dynos or rely on people to sort of
use their dynos, but for a good rate.
Or tune my work. And you quickly figure out that actually I'll be arrogant. Not many people are as good as me. And that is going to sound terribly arrogant. But I also know who's better than me. And I know what I need to do to work on. So there's only really 2 people in the country that do what I do, really. And I think do it in some ways better than me. I do some things better, they do better. But that's Ian Litchfield and that's Jürgen at JM, right? They've both got 20 years on me. But if my business can be as successful or can do and move in that circle as theirs, then I'm doing something right.
It's funny. What would you say? Because most people in some industries, I guess what we came out of the paving industry, it is pretty cutthroat in the sense of competitors. But in some things that you end up getting into, especially when people are just all busy, when everybody's winning together in a way, what would you say your relationship is like with some of those competitors? I mean, when I got here, Dale from AutoWorks, which is another tuning company, but he does a lot of BMW, do a lot of that. Like, it seems like it's a pretty good community.
If you've got to kick someone down to make yourself taller, I don't want to deal with you. So like, I get on really well with Jürgen. We know each other. I'll help him. He'll help me. Ian, I built a GTR engine and I had an old block line around. I'm like, mate, take it. It's fine. If people are kicking you, they're afraid of you. They're not even in my realm. I don't even think about them. I just cut. Winners focus on winning, mate. It's on the back of my shirts, and it's something I've believed since I've started racing. When I started racing, I was fixated on the guy who was beating me. So he was winning the class I was in, and I fixated. I did everything he did. If he went out, I went out. What he was doing to his bike, I'd try and copy. What are you going to do? You're only ever going to equal him. If I copy you move for move, all I can ever do is you. Does that make sense? So it was like, right, I just got to focus on what I need to do to win. And that was it. If you ask me what my motto for life is, that is it. Winners focus on winning. And that might mean, like I tell my kids all the time, exam results. Just focus on you getting the best results you can do. Don't sit there and go, oh, but just nail it on with you. Do you know what I mean? Get you sorted. So my eldest, Callum, he's 15 and a half. He's going through his GCSEs. I live in a real world. I'm not a messy parent. I'm not anything like this. Hand on my heart, one of the top 3 players in his team. Absolutely. As a baller, as a footballer, mate, he went to a training session the other week, and there was a Swindon town scout, and the guy taking the training session was an ex-Nambia player, played against Messi in a World Cup, right? And at the end of it, they were raving about Callum. But Callum is 5'4", playing against 6'2" players. And them 6'2" players can't play.
You know he's yours then, yeah.
But do you know what I mean? It's just like, I keep saying to it. So he beats himself up. He hasn't found the monster yet, right? So everybody, you have to be a ruthless. You have to be a monster. You have to be a savage. You got to learn to control it. But it's much better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have to be a monster. You have to be ruthless.
Push.
And then and he's not there yet.
And did you learn that? Do you think your racing then has helped you with your business?
Yeah. But having the living daylights kicked out of me as a kid, not having anybody, I didn't really have a family. I didn't really have parents that sort of nothing like what I am with my kids. So all I had was what I saw in a mirror. That's all I had. So I had to back myself. And I learned that late.
Sat there with REV tuned on with that. It is so cool watching that. I love watching the journey, which is what this is all about. Yeah. People. And it's crazy because I may only be turning 24 next week. But when you've been hanging around some people from when you were 16, 17, like that, that's 10 years gone like that. Like, I could not believe it when we said that was that amount of time when we were in the office.
Like I've like I said, what is it? 7 years known you. You know, we don't really float in the same circles, but we have a good relationship. We know each other. I would say, because I know how close you were, like what you've been through, the worst experience you can ever go through. Right. So then you sit there and you go, well, all this, if it fails, it's nothing. It's nothing to be afraid of because I've been through worse.
Yeah. No, yeah, I would agree.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just...
You just got to have a go.
Yeah.
And it's like, to be fair, it sounds... I interviewed Nigel and kind of most of the things that he'd done had stuck and worked. But there's going to be plenty of people that I interview, and I'm one of the ones included, where you throw a few things at the wall and they fall off. Luckily, with my web company, I've seemed to have found one that is like, okay, this sticks again. Same what Paving Direct was. That was a good one. My gaming company was like, whoa, like exploded. But
did you learn?
Yeah, I was good at making the website. Let's just crack on and do that. So
You fail forwards. You have to fail. People are terrified of failing.
And what was the most scary moment then on that, or a time that you thought, Jesus, with R8?
Well, I would say the scariest moment was probably what I described a minute ago when I was sat with Jord and we were in here and I was like, I don't know, I'm going to pay the bills. So like, do you remember when you used to come down, it's full of cars in storage?
Oh,
so
yeah,
all down one side of the workshop, I was like, right, I just got to pay rent. Let's just get rent paid. All right. Let's just not worry about doing anything big, flash or fancy. Literally put some paint on the walls, put some paint on the floor, put my 2 ramps in so I could get on with work. And I had 18 cars in and I had everything. Do you remember DBS, Virage Volante,
Cayman GT4,
everything, mate, everything. Covers on. I had nice covers made. I was charging and I'm like, right, okay. So I pretty much got my rent back down to what it was before, but now I'm in 5,000 square feet. So now you can spread your skirt out and you can grow. So that was all right. And then we kind of get a big time. And then it gets to a point where I'm like, I'm kicking storage cars out as they're leaving. I'm not
refilling the gap.
Yeah, I'm not refilling because I need the space.
And I just walked in a minute ago and thought, this is full.
Yeah. We're rammed, mate. We're rammed. So we've got 4 ramps, engine building room, Jordan's cell, Dino. I've got a strip down area. Jordan's got another little bay as well outside. I've got 3 McLaren GT3 engines to build, race engines. I've got 2 Huracan GT3.
And you've just got back from Israel.
Yeah.
What the heck were you doing in Israel?
But this is the thing, right? Like everyone's really surprised by that. But I've been flown all around the world for quite a while. So where have we been? Singapore, Australia. I've been Spain, France, Germany.
And you wouldn't have got that working in Mercedes service bay.
No, exactly. Do you know what I mean?
It's a lesson for people that may be thinking about changing and trying it themselves because you just wouldn't get that.
And it's taking the risk. It's taking it, being prepared. You have to be prepared to fail. Have to be prepared. So like bike racing, right? You welcome the crash. Because it tells you where the limit is. So when the crash comes, you might not like it. Do you know what I mean? All right, bad example, because that wasn't really my fault. I crashed. I know where my limit was. I was hunting for a top 3, crashed, walked off track, got hit by a back marker.
And you were in work 2 days later with your arm?
No, it was, I was in hospital for a week and then I was back in on a Monday.
That's it. I remember with a sling, doing an engine underneath.
If anybody's seen a TV program with Guy Martin, I'm strapping down an electric Beetle to a dyno with one arm in a cast.
Which is mad because so did you follow Guy Martin before you started RE?
So me and Guy raced each other 15 years ago.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't realise that at all.
Yeah. So like that goes back to
I've seen
British
one of
days.
Your YouTube videos with Guy has got 1.5.
Oh mate, it's crazy. Everyone loves him. He's mint. But again, someone else who on the face of it, if you don't know him, people make judgments on him, but actually he hates attention. So he kind of shies away from it. So like, but if you talk to him about what he wants to talk to, oh mate, we got told off in the engine room. He come in the engine room, we were chatting for like 2 hours and the producer's like, we've got to crack on. And he's like that. What's that? Because he's engine builder. So he grew up under like Chris Mayhew, who's a really, really famous Honda engine builder, like built engines for world superbikes, everything. So that's what, like me, I could run my business out of my garage. I could put my engine room in my garage and I'd be happy. Do you know what I mean? So some of what I've got now is ego.
The big space.
Look how big I am.
So then that then brings me on neatly to another question then, which is I saw you at the peak of that previous unit where you've actually, funny enough, said that was at the point where I kind of had more cash to myself more regularly. And now you're in here and everybody that walks in goes, wow, look at the signs. The diet looks freaking sick in here and it's amazing. So knowing what you know now, would you take it somewhere else into the next level?
So next now I want to buy a building. So but how it works at our place now is you come through the side gate and where you come through our workshop doors, that's the body shop's top bit.
Yeah,
so I don't.
It always has been.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to give that up, which is fine. But you've kind of got to pass through that to get to my bit. So I want my own building. That's what I want.
And it's a good thing for the business, balance sheet, asset.
Yeah, it'd be a pension. That's it. But again, I had an R8 last year. I haven't got an R8 this year. Everything's gone. Everything's sold. Because you do that. You kind of accrue all these things.
Overhead. Like it's not. Yeah. But people may think when you spoke about, and sorry, butting everybody, because I know everybody hates when I do that. But when you spoke about Litchfield, because I've been to Litchfield, and everybody looks around. If you're saying not business orientated and you're just loving the cars being there, which most people will be, everybody just sees the cars and thinks this place is awesome. When I went there and I looked at it, I thought, his overheads must be low. Because he runs it. It's his house in the same way that I'd build in a fishery in my back field rather than buying another lake to do it. Because the land cost is absolutely nil. Yeah. So is that the kind of thing you're looking to?
The difficulty is so you go, right, okay, so let's take Ian's example is perfect. So I would love to buy a farm with barns on that I could move Reperformance into barns, right? The problem I've got there is my business bank, because of the books. So again, not looking at my bank account, looking at my books, my business bank will go, we will support you getting into a building of this value. I need 25% deposit cash. So if I'm looking at 600 grand, that's 600 plus VAT. I've got to bridge the VAT, which you can get a loan for, but that's easily over, 100 grand. And I need 25% deposit. So now we're talking $250,000 in cash to go and buy a building. So you go, right, okay. What about if I buy a property that I can live in and work in? Right. Business bank, not interested. Don't care.
Really? I didn't know that.
Anything residential, not interested. The business bank will just go, if you're going to live on it, we want anything to do with it.
Which is mad because for the business, it's the better decision. Yeah. Which is absolutely crazy.
Completely agree. So then you go to your mortgage company and you go, can I borrow 1.2 million? And I'm a director.
Which is 100%. That's what I thought it would be.
It's going to be about that because we're bloody stuck in the Cotswolds.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's going to be about that. And then you're like, you're laughing, mate. You can have a mortgage for 240 grand or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? So that's the problem. So I would have said, go back a couple of years, it was probably easier to finance that kind of borrowing. Whereas now it's a lot harder. So that will help me make a decision on what the next move is. But at the minute, I just need to concentrate, forget what I might be able to do. Whatever happens, I need a big pot of gold. So how do I get the big pot of gold?
Work.
Right. Doors shut, lights on, and let's go. Let's just work.
And amongst all that and getting your head down, just to keep the business, because the one thing I've always noticed with you is you just, and I think everybody will get it by now this far into the conversation, is you just keep pushing on and pushing on and pushing on. And you started YouTube.
Yeah, we didn't kind of really start YouTube. It didn't happen like that. It was, so I'm good friends with a guy called Davey Lewis, who run Performance Audi magazine. He was the editor. And we done a couple of cars that got in there. So that's what I kind of got to know him. So he's the guy who runs Performance German Day at Coombe.
Oh, okay.
So he's that guy. He runs that.
The day I took a Lamborghini too.
That's it. Yeah. So he was doing my social media, so my Facebook, my Instagram, stuff like that, because again, it was something that was taking time that wasn't making me money.
Yeah.
So like, it's just focus on the work. How can we just focus on the work? Davey, do that. So that was his job, to take it away. And he put some bits and pieces together and he just chucked it on YouTube. And he was like, mate, this is all right, this. So we started to do videos to show off, or to show off what we could do. So we could do engine builds. We could do this. We could do that. Technical stuff. Not quite how-tos, but kind of in that realm, yeah. So here's a gearbox, we're going to take it apart, blah, 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 blah. And they've done all right. Maybe it's weird because you start looking at what videos do well and what videos don't do well. And it doesn't make any sense in my head. The video I think is going to smash it is the one that absolutely tanks. And then like last week, we had nothing. We had no video. And Davey's like, oh, you've just bought that RS6, haven't you? I'm like, yeah, because let's just bang it on a dyno. Mate, video's gone mental. So there's no rhyme or reason yet that I've figured out. It takes a lot smarter people to figure it out than me onto what actually smokes it on YouTube. So anyway, it's kind of got to that point now where I've always used it as an advert. I didn't want to pay a magazine to put a picture in of my business. And you look at it and go, what did I do? So it was always to give context to what we did. So we could use a social and go, oh, we do V10 engine builds. Here's what's involved. And by educating people, educating maybe a bit of a strong word, by showing people what you do, you actually show how good you are. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's that, and people have trust in the person, not the business. They have more trust in a person than a business. Which, to be fair, you've perfectly described one of the more business motivated reasons for me doing a podcast.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sat here with my website company on my top, not shoving it down people's throats, but I hope that people end up
But if one person looks...
So I'll use Ben for my website.
Yeah.
Because I know he can do them in It's not, Fowler Digital's in a magazine. It's just another web company. Yeah. It's the same thing when you actually put it out there and people can see you talking about something and you understand something. They have so much more confidence in what you do.
The business, the guy, Simon, his name is, he's got a black twin turbo. He's let me do what I've wanted with that car. It's been officially gassed, everything. That car, a section of that car is my biggest ever failure in business. I blew that car up. I blew that engine up. Blew up on a dyno. So I was tuning it.
No.
I was tuning it, mate. Yeah, we built it, twin turbo, 1,000 horsepower, and it dropped a spark plug. And it wasn't anything I did. It wasn't anything he did.
It
was just one of them things. Yeah. That is my biggest when I was sat down in the bottom of the workshop and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what's it. My biggest failure is that engine. Yeah. And I drove home that night. It was like 2 a.m. It was on the dyno. I did a pull. It was mint. We were watching it because it was on Motec. Got deck cans on, everything. Did a pull, mint. And it was like, right, that's cool. Let's just do another one. And then we'll button it up for the night and we'll give it back to him in the morning. Did another pull, 5,500 RPM, goes, spikes lean because it's got misfire. All right, backed out of it. And it's come back down to idle and it's sat there going, grrr, and I'm like, oh, I know what, it's like proper, like someone stepped on my grave. I've turned it off and I'm like,
turned it back on, even with everything you know about engines. You're like,
turn it off, turn it back on, and I'm like, right, okay. And I can see it's misfiring on the data, or I can see it's misfiring on live data when you're watching ECU. I pulled the plug, it's dropped the plug tip. Fueling's min, lambda's min, no knock, no nothing, drop plug tip. 45 grand engine I've just put down the drain. Right. I drove home that night, I sat in my driveway and I bawled my eyes out. This is Dino, so 20, maybe end of 2019. Literally, mate, sat in a driveway, bawled my eyes out. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. No, it wasn't that. It's I don't know how I'm going to tell a client.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the next morning I came in, I rung Simon, and I explained everything. And by then we'd built up a good relationship. He knew me. He knew what we did. He knew how we did it, everything. And that, I think, that credibility at that moment is why he went, don't worry about it. We saw it. Go away. Calm down. Because I got upset on the phone to him. He's like, we'll get through it. Don't worry about it. Yeah. And at that point, if it had gone the other way, like if he'd gone, yeah, I'm like that. Right. I'm going to fix his car and I'm out. I genuinely sit back now. And if that had been a bad experience, so you can see why some businesses fail or why some people fail in business. If that had been a bad experience, I can see why I would have gone, I'm shutting down my suitcase on. Yeah.
But you can't do that when you got people as well, though.
No. So I would never have stitched him up. And we did look after him. I mean, like that hurt a lot. The car's sat in there. He's come back for more.
Along with a lot of other R8s, which seem to be the staple thing. Litchfield's known for its GTRs. You're known for your R8s. But you've done all sorts of stuff from McLaren 675s.
I would say, I would say V10s is what we specialise in.
Yeah, best
so
engines.
more. You can't beat sound of a V10. So I would say V10 is what we specialise in. So we see a lot of Lambos. So was there 3 Lambos out there? There's always more R8s.
3 Lambos out there. See, that baffles me because there's some businesses I look at and I think it's just because I don't understand them. You know me, I don't understand how an engine, I can't take a wheel off a car, which will make you laugh. Yeah. However, I'm amazed by your client base because as someone that has owned supercars and, my dad had some cars and I was in a business where a lot of the people that bought things from us when I was growing up before I had a license, they had an F12 or an Aventador and none of them I ever saw get them modified. So to me, this world that I come here and see, and it's like 1,000 horsepower R8. And so I'm like, who are these people? Because someone spent 60 grand in a lifetime on a 60 grand car. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah. We had 2 boxes turn up between the inlet manifold, the fuel system. Between that was 20 grand.
So are these different types of people? Because to me,
Yeah.
And then take that car pretty much uninsured on track and just go.
Oh, we're not even on track, on road. We've got everything from, I've got guys in 1200 horsepower R8s that are in their 50s. I've got guys who are builders. I've got one guy, he runs a fleet of 30 road sweepers on building sites, and he's got an 800 horsepower supercharged one.
Would you say most of those guys have an interest in engineering?
No.
Really?
No. Maybe one or two. Majority
me.
of people are just like, I want something fast and stupid. So that's what we do. Unique cars. Yeah, what is it? We build insanely powerful and unique cars.
And would you say that also servicing and all that kind of thing
so
is bread and butter, a little bit like those cars on the ramp?
Yeah.
Although you've got so specialist at the big builds now, there's enough of them coming in.
Yeah, so it's 50-50, I would say. So the boys are busy with run-of-the-mill stuff, everything. So we'll do everything from changing a bulb to like, look at your girl's car in Israel. That's probably £150,000 build. Between us and another shop in America, Doug Hub. So Sean, know him quite well.
How was that?
That's dropping 100 to 200k in 2.6 seconds. So it wasn't dynoed out there. It was tuned on the logs, but in America, 1700.
So my perf would look like a canal boat.
Your perf wouldn't even see which way it went. Mate, you think another 1,000 horsepower on top of your perf. So the gearbox we put in the back of that car, so I went over to do the gearbox. So that came out of nothing. He messaged me on Instagram going, have you got a Motec plug and play kit for an R8? Because he saw what we did. And I'm like, mate, I've got mine here, but it's kind of for my car. And he's like, I'll buy it. And I'm like, because at that point I was thinking about selling my car. I'm like, do you know what? All right, let's sell it. He got on a plane next day and flew here from Israel with his mate, got in a taxi.
And
drove.
Do you pinch yourself and think from where you were working in the Mercedes
people
shop?
are mental.
Yeah,
like that. Mad
for a car.
Yeah. So while we were out there, someone dropped. It wasn't my department. I didn't drop the balls. Someone forgot spark plugs. You got to run trick spark plugs in a car because stuff happens, right? So you always try. They're called surface discharge plugs, so they don't have a tip. But they're like 200 quid a plug. Right. So when you're running like 1,000 horsepower, you don't need that level. But when you're sort of where he wanted to go, and also as well in Israel, there's no specialist shops. So you're trying to make the car bulletproof to stop him having problems. Mate, they flew to Dubai to get spark plugs.
It's incredible what people do for.
It's incredible. Like yeah.
But would you also say, so on your kind of marketing journey with the business, I think it's fair to say that it's like you come on the podcast isn't huge, but you come on it because you've got faith in the winners that focus on winning and you pick people. And I'd say one of them people that you picked from an outside to start working with before he had any sort of following was Mr. Armstrong.
So that was, and again, it's like, it just rolls. It's not, I don't sit there and go, this like, I want to come on here and chat crap with you. And whether we talk about me or whether we talk about someone else, like, I just want to chat crap. And if it tanks, it tanks. We know. You know what I mean?
Anything can.
Yeah. Because it's like for me.
It's insane to see where it can go, that whole marketing. Because it was such crazy growth.
When Matt Armstrong came with his R8, that came out of the blue because he had his R8 and it wasn't running right. So we came down here, we did an inspection on it, we checked the engine. And I said to him, look, mate, I'll look after you. I don't even think we charged him. I said, we'll check it over. We'll go over it top to bottom. We'll give you a report and you can do a video. And we found out why he'd lost a load of power because he had a vacuum hose off. But I think at the time he had like maybe 35,000 subs. And he dropped his part 5 video for GT3 RS in America, and that done 1.3 million views in 11 hours.
It's mad, isn't it?
Mate, that's crazy.
And that's honest. It's not the same subject matter, but it is the rebuild.
No, I don't think, for me, YouTube making money doesn't matter. For me, I enjoy doing it. I enjoy showing what we can do. I enjoy showing thing. You know what I mean? Showing a story. Like, there's only one person I like showing off to, and that's my wife. Do you know what I mean? The racing, all that. There's only 4 people I care what they think, and they all live at home. Everyone else is, you know what I mean? They'll come and go. I protect my brand. I protect what people think of my brand. Mate, I rule that like Stalin. So if anybody's upset, because at the end of the day, this is a people's game. This isn't about cars. This is about people. whether they've been left inheritance and they want to buy a car and they've put all their money into it. They know their car upside down, inside out. So my job is about people. It's about looking after people, whatever they want, whether they want to put a set of brake pads in it or whether they want to drop, 100 to 200 to 2.5 seconds, right? It's looking after the person. So I protect what people think about RE performance, probably more than I should. I probably think it's more fragile than it is because I think back to when I started. I'm like, one bad review and my business is over. And I still think like that now. And I don't think I'll ever change it because this business is built on my blood, sweat and tears. Do you know what I mean? I've cried over this. I've bled over this. Me and Kate one year we bought kids Christmas presents from a charity shop, mate. We were like down the back of the sofa looking for money to buy milk. Like when it's hard, it's been hard. So when it's good, do you know what I mean? I never get I never get too carried away when it's bad, and I never get too carried away.
You've got rid of your R8 for the time being, knowing what's on the horizon with things you want to do. But when you add that car, it's like, shit, I just got fucking my own R8.
And do you know what? I didn't even get that buzzy about it.
No.
I didn't even get that buzzy. And the bad side is because I'm surrounded by it, I get more, mate, I love my van. Like my van gives me more joy than cars do.
What is it with vans, though?
Oh, I know. But it's like, it's not, I think we said success. What is success in your value system? What is success? What do you want? Do you want to make money? Do you want time with your family? Do you want to travel or work? What does success mean? And I don't even know. If you said to me right now, pack it all up, that's it. Shut the doors. You've got to go and work in Tesco's for the rest of your life. But your boys sign pro contracts as footballers. Laters, mate. I'm out of here.
Really?
Yep. Yeah. If I've seen Cal, we're weirdly working this out. I reckon me and Cal working out because the training that boy does, we reckon he's 15,000 hours into football. Right? He's trained since he's a pup, since he's a baba. I wanted him on bikes, mate. I would have, if he'd come on bikes, Ben.
Not interested?
No.
Yeah, I hear a lot of that.
A little bit. Like he's saved up a load of money because he does refereeing. He saved up a load of money and we bought his first bike. So he's got a little 50 down there. But mate, jack it all in right now. If they get. So for me, that's success, right? Their success as a parent is different. I want to race at a weekend on the bikes. I won by like 16 seconds. Didn't even bat an eyelid. I come second in the last race. Mate, I was buzzing. I was peaking. Because the boys I raced in the last race were far superior than the boys in the race I won. Does that make sense? Like the lad I won, Bob, mate, he's amazing. Like, his bike controls are out of this world. And I chased him for 8 laps. Like on a little 600. Awesome. Yeah. He's on a super bike and I'm on a little 600. And but 3 of us had a massive battle. And that, for me, that was way more success, that second place trophy, than the winning trophy at the 600 race. Because I had to work to get it. And it meant more. So what is success? Do you know, like, in your value system, what is it? Because if it's money, I don't care.
I don't think it is, because I just appreciate the fact that I started the morning with a podcast, then had to work on a client's job, then was in my field in welly boots, in mud, looking for a lake. Now I'm back to the buzzer, but I'm enjoying that. Like, I love it.
Then that's it. I'm in a position, like, don't get me wrong, at the minute it's hard. Carl's ill, so Carl's had a heart operation, so he's off ill. It's me and Mitch. We can't get parts. So at the minute, it is hard.
It's bleak.
Yeah, it's hard. But I wouldn't say I hate it. There's days when I'm like, I want to put my head through the wall. But there's other days where I'm like, all right, it's up. I left yesterday at 3:30. I watched my Jack, my middle lad. He plays for school. One day, I won't be here and he'll sit and think, oh, Dad used to come watch me play football at school. Mm. So that's more success, right? Like I said to you earlier, if it's the bullshit on Instagram, mate, because it's all fucking leveraged. It's all finance. My car was financed. It doesn't mean success.
Yeah.
Like it does my nut in when people post a photo of their new car and they're like, congratulations. It's like, why? I signed some paperwork for mine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where it's like, right, mate, go and get 10,000 or what'd you do? 8,000 subscribers for this.
Yeah.
That's way of a bigger deal.
When I was told that I'd have 200 in the first month.
Because that says to me that actually people want to listen to what you want to say. Do you know what I mean? I'm way more flattered that by 20,000 subs we did last week, mate, honestly, I think we've done nearly 21 and done like another 800 this week. So we're nearly at 21,000 subs. I'm way more flattered by that than by people telling me well done because I've signed some finance docs on a car. I don't care.
Yeah, no, agreed. Because not everybody can do that. Because everybody, if they've got the ability to have the money in their account to be able to sign a finance agreement, can buy a supercar. But not everybody can put in the effort to do something that they go, I did that. Yep. It can't be replicated.
Yeah, build it from nothing. Do you know what I mean? It's like and I get some people like that stuff, and I've got friends who collect watches and stuff like that, but it's not a measure of success. Yeah.
That's why you care about your brand so much.
I think so. Yeah. I am really protective over it.
Well, I hope more. Well, I don't need to hope because I know you're going to.
We'll be all right. Well, we're going to come on
to the next stage.
Let's do this perf. When the podcast kicks off, mate, and you're doing 100 grand a month in ad revenue, we drop turbos on the back of that perf.
Do you know what's mad? It doesn't interest me in the slightest.
But that's how weird is that?
And that's why I struggle, and that's why I find it so interesting here about your customer base, because I'm like OEM.
Yeah.
I do go to these slam car meets, and I'm like, I think you've butchered that. My mates are going, that looks sick, and I'm like, does it?
If
but
I
it's
could,
personal.
Go on then, throw some back at you. So if you could have any, forget the hyper exotica stuff.
Oh.
What would you have right now?
Well, a laugh, which is the hyper exotic stuff.
Yeah. Over a F40?
Yeah.
You're such a newborn. You millennials.
If I'm honest, my perf, there's nowhere I want to go from that. I thought about an STO. I don't think it's worth the extra on top of my perf.
No.
I like having the roof off. People say it looks ridiculous. I like it. I enjoy it. That's why I get enjoyment out of it. I like the V10. I like the new Aventador that's just come out. That's impressed me more than I thought. But if I'm honest, I actually genuinely think I'm getting to my end bit of caring about them as much. Yeah. My lake build
is more...
is giving me more excitement than any car has in the since my little original Cayman GTS. I remember driving up the hill in my Cayman GTS. That is on par with my late build. The supercars honestly aren't.
I'm not. If you said to me now, what could I have? I've got one in Australia that's coming back. 1972 TA22 Celica GT.
I don't know what that means.
No. Go and Google it. It's basically a 70s Celica. It's one of the first Celicas. So you see the old Sky, Hakadushu or whatever they are, bloody GTRs, the original Skyline. It's basically, mate, it's a 70s Celica. I'd take that over everything because I'm never getting an F40. Knock at the door.
Well, we got a knock at the door, so we'll leave it there.
Thank
you, Ricky. Right. Cheers, man.